We are Modo, Modernizing Medical Practices. I'm Sterling, this is Caleb and Braden. And before we get started, I would like to share a story or a personal experience of mine over these past 2 years. Unfortunately, I've had to pass 3 kidney stones, and I do not recommend that experience upon anyone. As much as it was brutal, it was even more brutal when the doctors that I talked to misdiagnosed me, and I had to go to several different hospitals. It was frustrating, and as a patient, I did not feel safe. When there is medical procedures and methods that have 50% implication rates or higher, I don't think anyone can feel safe in those environments. And that introduces to our problem.
Going into an invasive medical procedure, patients like Sterling here should never fear for their own safety. And surgeons should never fear for complications from the resulting surgery. This is especially important during highly invasive spinal surgeries, particularly anterior cervical discectomies. They can be highly unsafe because tension is required on the spine throughout the entire surgery. And in fact, 52% of all of these surgeries result in complications due in part to the current method that you can see here. The weights are kind of hanging off the screen here, but as you can see, there are weights hanging from the crown that is attached to this patient's head. And that is how the surgeon is applying the appropriate tension for this particular surgery. This method is extremely outdated, is somewhat medieval, and there's no place for this in our current medical world today. So we at Modo have innovated a simple and effective design to solve this problem. We created the spinal tuner, a safe, precise, and efficient solution for spinal traction during surgeries. The spinal tuner implements our #1 goal of safety through force feedback to ensure that there are no complications for a patient following surgery. On top of this, the spinal tuner is also precise. It can be easily adjusted to different patient variables, physical variables, and surgical variables. The spinal tuner is also efficient. It can be easily packaged into our Modo branded box for easy hospital inventory for surgeons to access it when they need to. It is our goal to make the spinal tuner the industry standard for anterior cervical discectomies in the coming years.
Currently, we are working with 2 surgeons to implement this device. And this opportunity with these surgeons is the vital part of the integrating into the Salt Lake area. There are about 10 hospitals nearby that implement neck surgeries. There are over 100 different medical device manufacturings in the US alone, and they could be our potential competitors. These companies are Biomerics as well as Stryker. However, none of these companies have developed neck traction like we do. The global market size for medical devices is around $390 billion. For the US leads the world in spending about $2,000 per capita, as well as $156 billion in the medical device market. And Utah leads the nation with in job growth, with over 100 different medical companies just in Utah alone, and these companies provide over 34,000 jobs. They provide 34,000 jobs, and it is not a stretch to say that there is room enough for the spinal tuner in Utah. Next slide. Speaking of the spinal tuner, like as we said before, has a force sensor that provides the actual force at any given time on a patient during surgery. The force sensor also accurately reads the force at about 1 pound force, and it has progressive increment alerts to alert the doctor when certain forces have been reached, and this is to protect the patient. The medical device itself is very easy to carry around, only weighing in about 15 pounds, and the medical device has many backup plans, in a sense, if you would say, and that if there was a power outage, the device would actually lock itself, preventing any undesired movement. As well, this device also comes with a backup battery, so it can be powered back on and release a patient and to reset the system if needed.
The spinal tuner costs $20,000 to produce and will be sold to hospitals for $30,000. Through the 2 surgeons we're currently working with, we expect to be selling 10 spinal tuners to 10 spinal tuners to 10 local hospitals within our first year, returning us $100,000 in profit and helping us cover a potential $50,000 FDA 501k approval. By year 2, we anticipate reaching 100 hospitals in a more regional area of the United States, returning us $1 million profit. And as this device starts to become an industry standard in hospitals, we anticipate selling to 500 hospitals and making $5 million profit after 5 years. The spinal tuner is easily manufacturable. It can be built by hand, so it requires no third-party assistance, meaning that we save money there, and we will have devices on standby whenever we need to use them. Through surgeon use, word of mouth, and high demand for our product, we anticipate fast integration into a market that's in dire need of an alternative for anterior cervical discectomies.
So the question becomes how? How do we achieve this business model? And the first step is through working with the 2 physicians that are helping us to design and develop the device. Through them, we can network to speak to other physicians in the area as we're seeking FDA approval. And the benefit for us is that the Salt Lake Valley is a very tight-knit medical community. Everybody knows everybody else. And we can use that to our advantage to demonstrate and use the testimonials of the physicians that we have to show them the effectiveness and the benefits of the device. But we're also going to need to expand outside the Salt Lake Valley. So in order to do that, we can do that through a couple methods. The first being continuing medical education seminars. These are required for every clinician in the world. They have to attend it annually. And so presenting to an orthopedic conference is a great way to get awareness, expand your brand. And the second is through our partnership. We are partnered with AO Spine. They're a foundation created by spinal surgeons for the innovation of spinal technology. And through them, we can network and show the benefits of our device as well and expand awareness. And then most importantly, as we do begin to sell devices and get integrated into the market, is the follow-up with our customers. Talking with them, getting feedback from them, and learning how we can improve and change the device and fill the market with our device before any competitors. So some of these competitors are kind of cut off, apologize. So the biggest is Stryker. They're a huge company, and they focus primarily on orthopedic devices and design. They are located here in the Salt Lake Valley as well as nationally. And they're, as you can see, $13.6 billion. They're pretty big. And the second is a Johnson & Johnson subsidiary named Deepway Synthes. They are also an orthopedics-focused device company. And they are currently estimated at $8.88 billion, but they also have the backing of Johnson & Johnson, which makes them a strong competitor. The benefit for us is they're not located in the Salt Lake Valley. They have a small sales team that's in Salt Lake, but they do their device development elsewhere. And a smaller company, Biomerics, is locally, it's a local company that does contract medical device design. And they speak with physicians in the valley to try to gain physician need and discover new devices to develop. But the benefit and the advantage we have over these companies is none of them have competing product that exists on the market or has any documentation. But I think perhaps the most competitive issue is tradition. The physicians are used to using what they use every day, and they're just comfortable with that. And it's really cheap for the hospital. But we believe that our device, with its safety and its protections that it can provide physicians, will give them the impetus to overcome those needs. So, like I mentioned, there's no other competing device on the market. There's no documentation. There's no patent information regarding any device similar to ours, the spinal tuner, which gives us at least a 6-month to a few year advantage over companies to develop the device, to achieve FDA approval, and to go through all the steps of getting it integrated into the market, which gives us time to be able to permeate the market. And the other advantage of the device is because it's a simple design, robust, is that it can be used in other applications. As we integrate with physicians and speak to them about the advantages and how they've enjoyed using the device, we can find other applications for the device and expand our reach. So, to introduce the wonderful team, the first is we have Sterling Avra. He is the mastermind. He's the head honcho. That's why he's wearing a black jacket. It's the color of management. And he's a mechanical and software engineer.
And next up on the team, we have Brains Braden. Braden currently works in the medical industry as a design and development engineer and is a crucial part of our team here at Modo.
And last but certainly not least, Caleb Voust. He is a mechanical engineer from Boston, Massachusetts, and he has medical industry experience, and he knows how to kick ass. Not to forget our other members of our team as well, Dr. Sheridan and Dr. Mazer. Both have been helping us to implement our device. They have a very strong desire for this device to be released as soon as possible because they know how important and how vital it is for this device to be on the market because of the methods that are used today and how dangerous those current methods are. They will be performing cadaver testing this December, and they will be publishing their research.
So, we are seeking $500,000 to help with testing, approval, and FDA submission, and this will be for a 20% stake in Modo. We expect a return on investment of $1 million within 5 to 7 years. And this is limiting us to short-term projection where we are only covering or selling to a fraction of hospitals in the United States that are potentially serviceable. Beyond this scope, when we become an industry standard, and we develop even globally, marginal profit returns of more than $10 million are completely feasible. And that wraps up our pitch. Thank you all for listening. I'd now like to open the floor for any questions if you have any.
Yeah, I just had a question about your numbers. You're asking us for $500,000 in return for 20% of the company with an ROI of $1 million in the time window of 5 to 7 years. That just seems a little odd to me. You're telling me I'm going to receive $1 million, which is only twice my money for a 20% stake. It seems like I should be getting 50% of your company for that valuation. I'm sorry,
No, you're good. So the question of money, the $500,000 is based on our cost per device to develop. So it's development of multiple devices to get through testing and FDA approval, as well as to begin the actual production and sales. But yeah, like you said, we expect larger returns. We try to stay locally focused to get the company off the ground, and as time comes, we expect our vision more globally and hopefully probably higher revenues. If I remember, it's $1 million revenue.
$1 million revenue. Yeah.
This seems like a great and really innovative product. What are your plans for securing intellectual property on your designs and making sure that one of these industry giants doesn't come and just rip you off?
That's a great question. It's unfortunate that the university already owns it.
Have patents been applied for?
Not that I know, no. It's the doctor's project and their research, pretty much.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Can you explain a little bit more on how you plan to break into the market? Because you said it was they're used to using their own stuff or whatever. That's kind of caveman-ish.
So we're currently working with 2 surgeons to develop a product, and something that came up in research and that a lot of people that work in medical know about is that when one surgeon starts implementing like a new practice or starts something new, it often through just word of mouth is spread, especially locally. And that's why Salt Lake's a great place to start. There, as we mentioned, there's 10 local hospitals. By local, I mean within Salt Lake that do neck surgeries. And it's very feasible that once one of our surgeons starts using this thing, that everyone in the valley would know about it. And assuming it works well, then everyone else will try to implement it.
That in combination also with, I mean, there's gonna be some sales work that has to be done as well, just through marketing. And that's part of the testimonials that we mentioned, of just getting testimonials, getting demonstrations, getting it out there, saying, hey, this works, it's great. It'll reduce your complications in surgery, which reduces cost for the hospitals as well. So that's your motivation for
Yeah, just a quick question then. Are you allowed legally to sell before you get the FDA agreement? You're not. Do you have any estimation to how long it takes the FDA to actually approve your project?
Yeah, we threw up a graphic there, so the fastest you can possibly do it is 100 days. And that's if you have everything, all ducks in a row, ready to go. Typically, it ranges depending on what type of approval you're doing and what the type of device is. So it's hard to guess before actually getting into the process of doing it. Typically, you're right around a couple years or so.
Thanks.
I may have heard this wrong, but I think you said the accuracy is per 1 pound. Did I hear that right or wrong?
No, it's within 1 pound force.
1 pound of force. That seems not super accurate if you're gonna have like between 5 and 10 pounds.
Well, the current method is using 5 to 10 pound weights, so I think it's more accurate than it is now.
5 to 10 times more accurate.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
And also to add to that, this is also the data from the prototype that they're currently using. We anticipate spending $20,000 on high-end actuators and load cells for this thing. And with using those, I'm sure the pound to pound increment would be in like the hundreds.
Yeah, it's right now it's based on the facts that I give you is what we're working with right now. But in the foreseeable future, definitely should be way more accurate.
Okay.
I think your use of humor in your personal story to open up was really effective. For me though, between that story where I was laughing at it, transitioning to the spinal focus was a little disconnected. So just that transition could potentially be improved, but keep the humor. I like that. And then the only other comment is make sure your capitalization on all slides are uniform. There's a couple in there that were a little different. Took me away from your great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, last thing, and I think it's not your fault, but sometimes the slides were not very clear. But it's, I don't know whose fault is that, but a lot of the wording were not very clear because it's shifted to the right.
I think it might be my Mac. I don't know why.
Did you guys do 16:9 ratio or 4:3?
It was.
That might
I'm
make
not
a
sure.
difference if it goes up the screen or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 16 to 9 is going to be if you go on there.
I mean,
4 to 3.
What's the standard for PowerPoint?
4 to 3.
4 to 3.
There's a problem with that because we did it on Teams, so.
Yeah.
It probably looked better on your laptop, yeah.
Yeah. It did look good. Well, thank you again. Any other questions?